In corporate logistics, the highest compliment you can get from upper management is for them to not notice you at all. The ideal employee is practically invisible. They train new hires, they stay late without being asked, and they keep the warehouse running smoothly, so the corporate office never has to look closely. For 3 years, Maren Holt was exactly that kind of employee. As an operations coordinator at Pembroke Freight, she genuinely believed that if she kept her head down and did the work, her promised promotion would eventually come through. Her regional manager, Russell Tate, played his part perfectly too. He was the guy who remembered birthdays, he bought Friday pizza for the warehouse crew, he knew exactly how to make his staff feel like part of a tight-knit family. But a highly approachable, likable manager can be an effective smokescreen. It is difficult to spot systemic negligence when it is hidden behind a friendly, familiar face. The first sign of trouble came from a veteran forklift operator named Carlos. Carlos was a stickler for protocol, and he had submitted 2 written complaints about a faulty loading dock sensor. Under standard safety guidelines, that dock should have been taken out of service immediately until repaired. Behind closed doors, Russell told Maren that fixing the sensor was not in the quarterly budget. He told her Carlos needed to stop making the issue his personal crusade. The broken dock simply stayed open. For Maren, the lesson was clear. Workplace safety protocols were not rigid rules. To her management, they were optional expenses, easily ignored if they threatened the quarterly numbers. Maren's attention moved from the warehouse floor to the bi-weekly payroll reports she processed every other week as part of her administrative routine. Look at this data comparison. On the left, security camera timestamps and badge swipes show a group of employees actively working on the floor. But on the right, the official payroll system shows them same employees clocked out for breaks. The actual hours they worked vanished completely from their timesheets. Maren ran the numbers on just one employee and found 11 unpaid hours. When applied across multiple employees, these missing wages represented a massive amount of uncompensated labor. Wanting to give her boss the benefit of the doubt, Maren brought the discrepancy to Russell directly, suggesting it might be a software glitch. Russell laughed it off, told her the payroll software always has quirks, and he promised to look into it. 3 days later, Maren's back-end access to that specific reporting view was quietly revoked. The removal of access confirmed the missing wages weren't an administrative error. It showed the parameters were being monitored to ensure these discrepancies remained hidden. Around the same time, Maren started looking closer at the monthly safety inspection binder. This is a legally mandated record, the paperwork designed to prove Pembroke Freight was actively checking for hazards, like the faulty dock sensor Carlos kept complaining about. While filing a new report, she noticed the handwriting. Across dozens of signatures on the inspector line, every single one looked exactly the same. Maren pulled 12 months of logs and laid them side by side with Russell's corporate travel calendar. 6 of those safety walkthroughs were signed on days when Russell was traveling out of state. It was physically impossible for him to have conducted those inspections. He was claiming to verify warehouse safety while sitting hundreds of miles away. If Carlos or anyone else was hurt by that unaddressed equipment, the company would point to these fake logs as proof of their due diligence. The safety logs, which existed to prove the warehouse was secure, now served as a legal shield for the company instead of a protection for the workers. Maren realized her years of training new hires and keeping operations running smoothly were providing cover for a system that actively exploited her own team. She made a calculated decision. She would not say another word to Russell. Alerting the system to its own flaws only gave the manager a chance to better hide his tracks. When management controls the official record, playing by their rules is a losing game. The only way to reveal the truth is to quietly step outside the system and build an untouchable parallel archive. She started building what she called the shadow binder. Strictly on personal devices, she compiled a time-stamped web of photographed forgeries, preserved emails, and cross-referenced payroll discrepancies. Her private audit revealed wage theft impacted 9 people and ignored safety complaints spanned multiple workers. Systemic fraud relies on the assumption that the official record is the only record. By building her own, Maren ensured the company's version of events was no longer the only one that existed. When an employee knows how to trace the paper trail, the official story is no longer final. Taking evidence of misconduct directly to the person committing it or to their immediate boss relies on a dangerous assumption that the system wants to correct the problem rather than conceal it. Filing an immediate internal complaint with a manager who is actively altering payroll or forging safety logs gives them the one thing they need most: a head start to destroy the evidence and pressure the witnesses. To bypass that structure, you have to organize your evidence into deliberate, sequential disclosures. Each piece of proof must go to an external party with actual legal authority, operating on a strict timeline. Having the truth documented on paper means nothing if you hand it directly to the people motivated to put it through a shredder. The first move is securing the financial data. Submitting a formal wage complaint to the State Department of Labor, filed transparently under a real name with primary badge swipe records attached, forces an external investigator to evaluate the discrepancy from page 1. The second move targets the physical danger. Sending original, unaltered maintenance requests and photographed safety logs to OSHA introduces federal inspectors who operate entirely outside the company's localized hierarchy. The hardest part of this sequence is the delay. The employees directly affected by the hazards cannot be told what is happening until after the agency complaints are formally timestamped. Federal workplace safety investigations carry strict legal protections against retaliation. Waiting to speak with a vulnerable employee ensures their original complaints enter the official record first, wrapping them in a layer of legal armor. Filing externally first strips a corrupt manager of their ability to react. By the time they realize they are being watched, the evidence is out of their reach, and the witnesses are legally untouchable. Once those agencies open their investigations, the flow of power flips. Corporate compliance teams bypass the local warehouse manager entirely, pulling records directly from the main server. The manager learns about the situation through a sudden incoming call from the regional office, demanding immediate access to 12 months of safety documentation and 6 months of payroll data for specific staff. Auditors first see a severe contradiction: tall bars for actual badge swipes versus short bars for approved paid hours. Then, transitioning to a calendar view overlays the manager's out-of-state travel dates with forged safety logs, revealing impossible warehouse signatures. There is no plausible explanation that survives contact with both of these independent datasets at the exact same time. The company's immediate response is standard protocol: place the manager on administrative leave to cut off their access to the staff and internal records while the investigation runs. To guarantee a clean break from the localized hierarchy, corporate brings in an interim site manager from an entirely different region, someone completely disconnected from the previous leadership. Within his first week, this new manager reviews the backlog and authorizes an emergency repair on the loading dock sensor that had been ignored for months, clicking over to a solid green for the first time. Systemic accountability rarely involves a dramatic office showdown. It usually looks like a quiet, immediate removal of a bureaucratic roadblock, allowing the facility to return to safe operations. 4 months later, the Department of Labor concludes its audit. They order the company to pay back wages to the 9 identified employees, plus 2 more discovered during the state's deeper review. Because the investigator receives a time-stamped copy of the original unadjusted payroll report, the state assesses additional penalties against the company for deliberately attempting to obscure the violation internally. OSHA issues a formal citation for the unaddressed hazard and the documentation fraud. They mandate a timeline requiring that all future safety repairs be verified by third-party inspectors, removing any single manager's ability to self-certify. A 2-year-old safety complaint, previously dismissed by local management as a personal annoyance, operates as the foundational piece of evidence for a massive federal citation. The employee who gathered the data stays at the company and accepts a promotion to operations manager. She finally holds the authority to approve the maintenance requests she used to watch disappear. Her coworker returns to his forklift on the loading dock, operating in a physically safe environment, protected by external verification instead of empty promises. If this evidence had been raised on day 1, based on a vague feeling that something looked wrong, it would have resulted in a tired MAF, a promise to look into it, and a quiet erasure of the reporting access that made the problem visible. Spending 8 weeks strictly documenting the discrepancies is the necessary friction that transforms a dismissible feeling into an undeniable, system-altering case.